In the dark streets of Paris, the plague consumed everything around me. As the bells tolled in the evening, I rushed outside, forced to search for supplies for my family. My heart pounded with fear, but the need to survive pushed me forward. The air reeked of death, and the tolling bells echoed like an omen of impending doom. Somewhere nearby, a priest addressed a frightened crowd, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Do not fear, for God is with us in these dire times." But I barely heard him. My eyes were drawn to a pale-faced girl peeking from a window, her gaze wide with terror. My heart ached, but there was no time to pause. As I walked, the street swarmed with movement. Shouts, cries, and hurried footsteps filled the air. I noticed Madame Madeleine, once a vision of aristocratic splendor, now hollow and broken. Our eyes met briefly, a silent exchange of pain neither of us could bear. I looked away and moved on, following behind Madame Madeleine's retreating figure, only to see a growing crowd dissipating in fear, their hurried steps echoing as they distanced themselves from the scene. A lifeless body lay on the cobblestones. A woman knelt beside it, her anguished cries piercing the final waves of light that filtered through the dust as she mourned her husband's death. A child's voice, sharp and desperate, pulled at me. I quickened my pace, drawn toward the sound, my breath catching in my throat. Up ahead, I saw a mother dashing along the pavement, her face etched with panic. The child clung desperately to her dress, tiny hands gripping the fabric as if tethered to the only safety they knew, like a clock hanging on the wall. It's like a survivor clinging to a floating piece of debris in a dark, stormy sea. People passed by me without a glance, as though they had lost the ability to see each other. Suddenly, in front of me, a man emerged from the shadows. "Where is God? Where is the hope they promised us? We're dying here so slowly," he was shouting. I stopped for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't decide whether to feel pity or fear. His eyes were filled with rage, but also with a deep sadness, as if he had lost everything except his voice. People avoided looking at him, but I stood frozen for a moment longer, his words creeping into my mind. Then I could no longer stop. I continued walking, my steps steady through the fog, amid the chaos of the streets and the crackling shouts echoing around me. When I finally reached the market, I found Monsieur Jean trembling behind his stall. "Monsieur Jean, could you spare some bread and herbs, please?" I whispered. He handed me a small sack, his pale face reflecting the horrors we both shared. The journey back was no less harrowing. Shadows crept in the corners of my vision, and despairing eyes followed my every step. Paris, once alive with pride and laughter, had become a city of death and ghosts. As I neared my home, walking through the darkened street, I sensed a presence watching me. I raised my eyes, and there he was. Louis, his face weary, holding a small bag that seemed to carry the weight of everything he had left in this world. He stepped toward me quickly, his eyes filled with a desperation I had never seen before. "Isabelle, I finally found you. We have to leave now. There's no time to waste," he said urgently, his voice laced with a desperate need. I was struck with such shock that I couldn't speak at first. "Louis, what are you doing here? Where have you been?" He quickly responded, "I've been looking for you. We can't stay here. The whole city is falling apart. I have a horse and supplies. We can escape tonight, away from this." I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. "I can't, Louis. My family needs me. I can't leave them."
Let him go.
I could feel the pain in his voice when he said, "Isabelle, this isn't the time to hesitate. Death surrounds us from every side. Look around. Death is inevitable here." I whispered softly, "But they're my life. How can I leave them? How can I save myself and leave them behind?" A heavy silence stretched between us, filled with unsaid words. I felt his gaze, full of sorrow, like a final farewell. Slowly he turned, retreating into the darkness. I stood frozen, my heart heavy with the realization that this might be the last time I ever see him. I was walking towards my home, my eyes drowning in tears. Everything around me seemed to flicker and fade, as if I were a captain at sea, having lost my entire crew in a violent storm. Nothing could help me now, not my telescope nor my rank. Then I noticed something moving. I wiped away my tears, and there she was, the same pale-faced girl, looking at me and extending a flower from the window. Her face was still pale, but now there was a faint, serene smile on her eyes. I stopped, my breath caught in my chest. She held the flower out towards me. "Is this for me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper as I stepped closer. She didn't speak, but gently nodded, handing me the flower and disappearing through the window. I took it with trembling hands, holding it close to my heart. I smiled, even though tears streamed down my face, and walked away. That night, I returned home unable to sleep. My mind was on the verge of exploding. I rushed to my journal, trying to release the pain that gripped my chest. I was about to break down if I didn't do this. And here I am, writing to you, my dear ones, those who know me and those who do not, these words. I truly do not know if I will survive this darkness, for everyone here is threatened. I was searching for life amidst death, while the hands of everyone around me trembled. This is Paris as I saw it, unrecognizable at first. May God bless you. With love and regard, Isabelle Ferrand. I can't leave. My family needs me. I can't leave them. Is this for me? Maman, ne me laisse pas seule, je t'en supplie. Maman, reste avec moi, je t'en prie.